Hi, Cheryl. Hi, Mochka. Motska. Hi, Mom. Hi. How's everybody? Hey, Meeta. I'm so glad you could join. Hi. Good morning, Mom. You're in California, so good morning to you. Okay. Just gonna wait a couple of minutes. It's just hitting 1 o'clock, and I have a live today, as you know. And I'm so excited about this topic. And I'm going to Jody. All right. I see Laura. Okay. I don't know. I was trying something new. I sort of like to listen to something that inspires me before I get on my calls. And I might do it with a meditation. I may do it with some music. Oh, I just turned it off. All right, I'll play it again. I was just trying something different, Lori. I usually kind of just offer myself a few minutes of something that's inspiring. It might be a meditation if I'm feeling called to. It might be some jumping jacks if I need to, but I already worked out. Hi, Joy. And today it happened to be music. I have a space in my basement and I have some really great sound, like a sound bar. So I was just playing it and enjoying it, and I didn't feel like shutting it off. So I decided to keep it on, for like a minute on this call. So thank you for being here. This is an Instagram Live with Lori Petro from Teach Through Love. Yes, I'm so excited. I think I've said it enough to Lori herself. However, I'm just gonna say why. I have 2 teenage boys today. My older one is 16 and a half, and my younger one is gonna be 15 next month. And I was really scared. Years ago, I was super worried and fearful of this age. And I have to say, I love it. Please don't misunderstand. It comes with challenges, but I love it. I enjoy it. I do struggle with sometimes the distance. So, and I think I wrote that in my post, like a little bit of letting go, a little bit of what that feels like as a mom and why. So I do a lot of work around this because I feel like with my kids, it's about every few months, maybe even less now, I go through a process of letting go a little bit more. And I want to just offer, with that comes a little bit of grieving, a little bit of like, my mom role, my role as mom. Now, today we're going to talk about a few aspects of this. And Lori and I are going to kind of just maybe really reframe some things for you. So I hope that, you notice that part. And then we're going to work through some examples together. Letting go is so hard. Joy, it is so hard. But I can see what it does to my relationship when I can. With the letting go comes, I think the other word I might have said, I don't remember my post fully, but it's trusting the foundation that I have built with my children, trusting them, trusting that we have connection and communication so that we can be there for each other. I can provide the needs and meet the needs that they have. So this is a really special conversation with me because it really is very much about my present day life. And I think, again, all of this is kind of coming to me. Lori talks about like the work that we have to do in the present moment with our children. Okay, I'm not even going to talk about what Lori talks about because Lori's going to come and talk about it. So I'm just kind of thinking off the top of my head, like what are the things, let me find you here. Okay, found you. Sent. So I'm just trying to think of some of the things that kind of come up for me on a daily basis.
Oh, there you are.
There you are. That was so easy, right?
That was easy.
Yes.
Except that beforehand, I couldn't hear you. And then my AirPods started playing U2, like that U2 song that was downloaded onto everybody's phone that just pops up whenever. And I was like, what is happening?
Oh my gosh. Everybody, this is Lori Petro. So thank you so much for saying yes.
Absolutely.
I am so beyond. I think I've already shared it, but I have teenagers and I have 2 boys. And I am one of 2 sisters. So this was even for me when they were born, which I'd like to say I'm a really good boy's mom. I'd like to say that. I feel it in my body and I feel it with my children, but regardless of gender, this is a very special time for me. I have one that's 16 and a half, so a year and a half before he goes to college. And it's just special and hard and exciting and so many emotions. And I guess I'm learning that I can actually carry 2 that opposing emotions together,
Yes.
like, nervous and excited. So I can do both. That's a newer revelation for me. And I'm so happy I have that because I feel it. So Lori, again, this is Lori Petro for everybody who's joining in. And thank you all for being here live and whoever watches this later. And Teach Through Love. And we're going to talk about conscious communication with our twins. I don't have twins.
Oh.
It could be twins too.
Who's having twins? Somebody out there might be having
Someone's
twins.
having twins. Someone might have twins here with our teens. So welcome. Thank you again.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's so great to connect. I loved what you said about the grief part. Because there's so much that we're letting go right now. And that is something that, I don't know, it's hard for me. I don't know if it's hard, but it's really smacking me in the face right now because I'm going, oh, you're right. You don't need me to show up that way for you. You need me to show up this way. And it's so different. And yeah, so I just loved when you talked about the grieving part of, we got to let part of that go. And my daughter's about to be 16 in a couple of weeks. So I'm right there as well.
Okay.
And I only have one. So once she's like, once we get through these few years, like the adult part of her will really be there. And it just blows my mind how very fast it went. It's going.
Yeah. What kind of came to me when you said, like grieving, and what the word that kind of came to my mind was honestly, and I'm being really honest. My lives are honest and vulnerable, and I mean, I don't know I hope they just show that how human I am, because what I thought of for a second is letting go of like the control, the word control, which I don't want to like make it's not negative or positive or good or bad. It just is. It's part of our human nature. And I feel like with my kids today, the grieving is, okay guys, ready? Like I can't control and I'm not supposed to control. And as my kids have become this age, like they won't let me control. So if they're feeling and they're kind of absorbing that I'm trying to control them, they won't let me.
Yeah.
And I actually want to say thank you for that, because that's huge for me and maybe for many moms and many of us with teenagers. But to me, that's where I feel like the letting go and the grieving is almost like at the same time, like I'm like, wow,
because of this conscious parenting journey that I'm on, and I have been healing myself, I can let go. I don't have to control, and I can feel a little sadness around it. But I don't feel that crazy, gonna consume me sadness lying on the floor. Although many years ago I might have been laying on the floor like tantruming, like
No,
why?
yeah.
But
It's
it's like
just,
it's
I
just
know what you mean.
it feels natural. It feels real, and it feels like, you know what? It feels like they deserve it. It feels like I'm letting go and they deserve it because they can fly little by little. They can
Totally.
fly and open their
Yeah,
wings. So
absolutely.
that's when you said that, I was like, oh, grieving that I can't control and grieving, and also going, well, I don't really have to either.
Yeah.
So,
It's a new phase of our relationship too, right? Yeah. That's
yeah.
cool. That's cool.
So where should we begin today? Where should we begin?
Well, I think the one thing is that as much as they are growing and we don't, I mean, I have an Aries, so I never had control. I don't know if anybody else out there has one of those, but you were never in control at the beginning.
That's
But
right.
there's
It's an
like
illusion.
this,
It's an
right,
illusion. Yeah.
it's just fake. No, but seriously though, we still have to show up to provide boundaries, right? We
Yes.
still, and I think one of the most important things we can do is just keep shifting the way we see behavior. Like we have to shift it when they're 3 and we know that they're dysregulated and they're not in control. But then when they're like 13 or 14 or 16, we're like, oh, you got control. There's no reason for any of this. And it becomes much like it's almost like we're redoing things and we have to remember to still reframe what our teenagers are saying. Like it's very easy
Yes.
to look at a child and see like a disrespectful child. Or
Oh,
even
yeah.
or even in the positive, we want to say like, oh, that doesn't, because we know our young, especially younger teens like 13, 14, they can really, and I'm sure it's with older teens too, but they can really obsess about what others think or about how they look to other people or if they're doing a good job. Like how they appear really starts to become super important, and they can maybe fixate on things that we might go, like think, oh, it's not a big deal, you're going to get through this, and we want to distract them out of that pain. And
Yeah.
I think the real gift is reframing not only that behavior to see it as, a child who's just still struggling. They don't need us to fix or solve it. How can we witness it with them and still let them grow? I think that's what my job feels like right now. And honestly, everything I do is because I was like the terribly, horribly misunderstood kid. And I didn't have
Yeah.
a good relationship. And that's why I do everything that I do. It's why I started Teach Through Love. So I really don't come as like some kind of parent specialist or anything like that. My role is like, how can I broke the cycle in my family, and I want to share what I know about what kids need with others. And I think that's like how I can help the most is like, let me help you understand what your kid really needs in that moment.
That's amazing and beautiful.
Oh.
And I want to just say thank you for your honesty, because even for myself now, I am finding myself, again, I'm just sharing this, that through my own experiences of the work that I've done and going back to like understanding, the more I have been able to, this has been my process, understand myself, possibly my teenage years, because I do have teenagers, and just watch myself go from being really far away from my authentic self, like all up in the masks and the ego and everything, to just slowly bringing myself back, and then whoop, there comes the mask again, and then I see it, and that has also been guiding me to be able to better. Definitely not great, because I can get caught up. I mean, I don't know how not to get caught up in it, but
Yeah, we all can.
but yeah, and do a little bit better of witnessing and holding space through energy, through compassion, which I love. That's like that is just blows my mind, that compassion and understanding can actually be such a tool for witnessing our children. But I did have to learn to have that tool for myself, that compassion for myself, as I was moving through something hard, and watch myself dialogue was I going, God, you're so stupid. You know, you're such an idiot. Like, why did that happen? Or did I say, wow, of course you said that. It's so understandable why you would say that. And I have found the more I have been practicing, like, not this just happened intentionally, but also happens that the words would come out of my mouth with my kid. Then I'd be like, wow, I could see how that would happen. And I was like, where'd that come from?
How did I know how to say that?
Where did that come from? So I really appreciate that what you're saying. And I think it's also, I agree wholeheartedly with you that through my own experience too, it's been it helps. It helps. We're not saying we're perfect. We're going to I also share the mistakes I made. I'm like, guess what I did last week?
Oh, yes.
Also happened.
Breaking the cycle means breaking a lot of things and making a mess along the way.
Yeah.
But to have that relationship with, and I don't know if you feel this with your boys, I'm sure you do, but just to have, well, for me, to have any relationship with my child just feels like such a huge, like, it's something I've never experienced because I didn't have it, right? I didn't have parents that I had a relationship with, like even into adulthood, unfortunately. And my mom has passed away, so I just didn't, we never got the chance to have that kind of a relationship.
It's a gift. I think it's a gift.
Yeah, so to have it with our kids, like, oh, I know it's so hard, and sometimes she looks at me and says things, and I just want to like I'm screaming in my brain. And sometimes I will, I'm not perfect. I always say conscious, not perfect. There is no.
I like that.
Yeah, there's definitely no me saying, oh, this is the way you got to do it, and there's like some goal of perfection. It's just even learning in those moments where I freak out at her, which I will admittedly do sometimes because I'm not. And then I like the going back is the gift too, like to repair with her.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so huge. It's to be able to do that. So it's not about just like getting it perfect. It's like, can I be open enough to say, okay, you know what? I really screwed up and I reacted. I wasn't expecting that, and I let my emotions get the better of myself, and I'm sorry. Like, can we start over? Like, though, if I'd heard that as a teenager, oh my gosh, I don't even know
what would you have done? I don't know. Yeah, you know what? I as hard as repairing was for me, it was pretty hard in the beginning because you're going through, and I have some wounds around mistakes and making them, and like, some failures, like fear of failure. Like I had that. And it was hard in the beginning, but I noticed when I did go in, and it wouldn't necessarily happen right away. Sometimes I think it was not too long ago that it was like an overnight thing. And then the next day I went in and, and spoke truthfully and honestly, and repaired. I believe I repaired because within, and this is the truth. I went into his room, which is, I barely, it's like, close the door, turn the lights off. That's the story. So I went in and, I shared from my heart, really, with love. And within 5 minutes, he was like out of his room downstairs, like, let's make dinner together. And I was like, whoa, what just happened? I was like, that's amazing. Of course, with no agenda when I went in, not expecting him to even receive my words, because that also happens too. Like they're not quite ready, or maybe I still have an attachment somewhere, and they're so brilliant, like they freaking know. They're like, she's not big fully, she's not ready all the way. So I
can't get it past them.
No, you can't. And and I as hard as that is, at the same time, I can say thank you because I'm learning. I started with I've never parented a 16-year-old before. You're my first one. So, and I think I've also really in the last 8 years or so that I've been on this journey, I have really, I think, expressed myself like, oh shoot, I just made a mistake, and I've just been working, and my kid will call me out too, Lori. The other day I had something going on with my younger kid. I went downstairs and said something to my older kid, and he goes, you're just mad at me because of Alec right now. This has nothing to do with me. And I'm like, oh God, he could see through me.
Yeah, you're so perceptive.
It wasn't you. You're right. I'm like, wow, you are so right. I am so sorry. I will leave this room and I will be right back.
It's so great though that they feel open enough too to be able to say that, you know, because how many kids might, I know if my parent was in that position, I would have just been like hiding until they were, you know, better. Like I wasn't going to be offering any suggestions like, hey, come on, I know this is just because, and then like they were going to, you know what, you're right. And then we all get to research together. Like
the safe space. Yeah. It's a safe space to express yourself, you know, and again, you know, I don't know why I keep having to tell you that I don't do it perfectly, because I want to share, like, you know, that when you do make a mistake, you kind of own it. You know, we take responsibility for it, and like we repair, and we're human to human, spirit to spirit, soul to soul. Like I kind of say those kind of things, and I'm like, wow, you know, I didn't get this. I think I told my kids something one time. I'm like, you know, I didn't really have that before when I was younger. And that's why I'm coming to you, and I'm having a conversation. I've opened up dialogue with him. It is a safe space. And I think I've said it for years. I've actually been at dinner before with my kid, and I like kind of energetically saw him like kind of go in and shut down. I remember texting him at the table being, your voice matters. Mm-hmm. I want to hear your voice. I always want to hear your voice, like with a little heart, because they're always on the phones, right? So they'll see that part.
So, you know, they'll get it.
Yeah, I know he'll get that. And, you know, and I think one time I was sitting at a table, it was like a while later, and he texted me that. He was like, Mom, why you were going to say something. What did you want to say? I was like, oh, wow, this stuff is
both ways. Yeah.
It's both ways. So it's a safe space. I think if we can create that with our children. And I wanted to go back, you said about respect. Well, first do we want to just bring the beautiful viewers that are here, kind of talk about reframing behavior before we even go in? I was going to go into respect, because you said that just now. That's a big one. So, and I was thinking, like, to create a safe space, we have to reframe, like, my kid's not being respectful to me. We have to kind of reframe that. Do we want to talk about that first?
We can. I think that's important, because I think especially with older children, we expect some level of maturity, and we forget that while they are more mature, I think, well, maybe not a lot of parents are even aware that brain is undergoing such reconstruction in the teen years. And we want to go to like Dan Siegel and Tina Payne Bryson for all of that beautiful knowledge. But because of that reconstruction, they're so like skilled and can be so eloquent, and yet they can be so emotional, and their nervous system, when that shuts down, which often happens when they feel overwhelmed, when they feel stressed by demands, when they feel like people are expecting things of them that they can't fulfill, or they don't know how to fulfill. And they might not say, I don't know, I feel overwhelmed, I don't know how to, you know, fulfill these demands. They're going to slam their door and avoid you, right? So it's reframing that behavior and going, okay, I know I see a kid who's slamming doors. Now, slamming doors is not okay. But if we can go in there and say, you know what, I know you're really frustrated. Slamming doors is not okay. We can't do that. I want to help you. Like, and then we figure out, how does our kid get regulated? What works best for them? Do they need to put on their headphones? And, you know, we can talk about regulation, but that reframing has to come first, because we're not going to be willing or like feel compassionate enough to go in and want to help a child who we think is being disrespectful towards us. Like, nobody wants to connect with a person that we believe is doing that. So are the words disrespectful? Yes, maybe. Like, we're not saying that the children are doing something that we just let go. But we have to just be willing to see that there's a kid that's struggling, that's in pain, and that doesn't know how to ask for help in a better way. Or might feel ashamed. Like, they don't even want to ask for help because they feel like they should be doing it, or they don't want to be called out for not doing it. And there's so many things, right? That it could be chores, it could be homework, it could be like a million different things that could be the actual challenge. But there's always a deeper meaning to how our kids are communicating. There's always a deeper meaning behind the behavior, rather. And what they're communicating is really where the reframing becomes important, because we have to be able to say, okay, this behavior is not okay, but this is the message that it's sending me. So what's that
The
message?
behavior is a message. So if we're focused on the behavior, then all we're going to do is try to correct and change and fix the behavior.
Right.
So what we're trying to say here,
or fix the way we feel, right? Because it's that we don't like what's
yes,
happening, so we're sort of, you know,
yes,
rolling in this frustration and stress of you're not doing it, or you're not listening, you're not respecting me. And that's really why we're pushing the behavior. If we let all that go, then we're like, oh, okay, I don't feel disrespected because I know that this kid's having a moment right now, and I can help them shift out of the moment. Now, here's the thing. If we have a kid that's chronically stressed and we're always having, you know, interactions that are difficult, then we might need more support, right? It's not about then, because I don't want to minimize anybody's experience. And I don't want to say like, oh, you just change the way you speak and then all of a sudden things magically change. It's really about how connected does this kid feel? Is the relationship really strong? Is this kid struggling with other things outside, or has there been a history of trauma? So if anybody's dealing with anything like that, please know this is not to minimize this, but just when we're speaking generally, teenagers can be really grumpy and really aggressive and really assertive and very clumsy in the way that they express valid needs and feelings.
I love that. And I love what you just said. Can I just kind of circle back to that for a second? So I said, you know, if we focus on the behavior, right, their behavior is a message, and then we just want to change and fix the behavior. And I love what you said, because I'm just like, I just put myself in a position. I just kind of envisioned, I don't know, maybe last night, you know, something that happened last night. And I think you sort of hit it. If I just paused for a second and I said, by fixing his behavior, by focusing and trying to change his behavior, what I'm doing is also trying to alleviate the discomfort that's in my body. I'm watching something between my two kids, and I want to change I want to change the older one's behavior towards my younger one. Yes, okay, that's one aspect of it. But the other thing is I'm uncomfortable with what I'm watching. So by fixing his behavior, I'm going to alleviate my discomfort. So it's a two-way thing to go, wow, what am I feeling? Where's that coming from? That also will help me, like, not to just focus on the behavior. I will actually, this is the hardest part of parenting.
It's the first step. I don't even help parents communicate until they can communicate with themselves.
Right.
Yeah, like we don't even go to the kids until we've got all this worked out.
Because you got to work this stuff out, because really, as we're watching as the door is being slammed, I'm getting angry. So now my anger is going to go into my kid's room. He's angry and frustrated. I'm going in angry and frustrated. And actually, it's like two little kids now fighting. You know what I mean? Now you have this like, why'd you do that? And why'd you talk to me like that? And now you just have this back and forth thing. Yeah. So that is the heart. I always, when I'm talking to parents, so even when I'm talking to myself, I'm like, oh, this is so hard, because I have to look at myself and what's happening with my emotions and my regulation to even be able to see, like, even be able to reframe that behavior and be like, whoa, there's a need underneath that. Again, the behavior may not be okay. You can't slam, you can't do this, you can't, you know.
And we can talk about that. Like,
right.
There's a time for that, for sure.
And I also think when you go beneath it and you do meet the need of, like, you know, I'm struggling with this in school, or I'm struggling, or my friend, you know, and you go to that need, the behavior may just, is this possible? What do you think about this? The behavior may just start to slowly, I'm not saying tomorrow, and I'm not saying right away, but it may just start to dissipate, because you'll stop focusing on it. You'll know the need, and you'll be able to go to the need. And then the child, I think you said it, will start connecting with you. You'll be able to connect with him. And so this connection will lead to, like, well, maybe this is a safe space and I can share it with my mom or my dad or other people, you know, other adults in my life. And so, like, you don't have to necessarily, I mean, unless we're talking something, you know, a little bit more chronic and dangerous or red flag behavior. But there's a need underneath that. That's what I'm really hearing you say. And
Yeah, and sometimes it sounds like you were saying, like, sometimes when we address, like, we don't even necessarily need to meet the need. It's just by witnessing that they have the need.
yeah.
And then they, like, your kid just has to sit with discomfort sometimes. Like,
And
sometimes
that
they
might
just have to
right.
be unhappy and like when you were talking about like, say they're having a challenge with friends, like, we might want to minimize it. Don't worry, you're going to get over it. This is what I was like saying earlier.
Yeah.
We might want to distract them, and kids are like, so like, no, this is important to me. And we're like, no, don't worry about it. But if we just sit there and go, wow, yeah, it's really, really important. This is also what I want to say before I forget, because my ADD brain will go on a tangent, but I always ask my teenager, like, do you just want me to listen, or are you looking for advice?
Oh.
So that way I know that I can just, because sometimes the hardest thing to do is just sit there and listen
So hard.
without like even facial expressions, or just to really be present and listen to what that person
I do it like that. I think I have to get Botox so I can control my facial expressions.
Right? So, I mean, and of course, I'm not trying to limit, like, say that we should
No.
limit our natural, personality, but to just be really present with that kid while they're going through whatever it may be. Maybe it's even happiness, and we're, because it's not always just negative emotions that we're trying to move our children out of. Sometimes we're trying to calm down their excitement or get them to show more enthusiasm, or all kinds of things that we, think that we should like
be
you said,
doing.
we're on that control
Should be doing.
train. Should be doing. But just asking them if they are really looking for some help, or if they're just looking for an ear to listen to what's going on, is so helpful to just taking the load off of you and the responsibility too, so that you're not providing direction or advice.
That's huge.
Yeah,
you just gave me permission to like breathe.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Gosh, we should give like everybody, like it's like we need permission from each other to be like, oh, okay, you're doing that too. Like, that is okay. That's what I feel. I think a lot of the time we distrust our natural instincts, because we have this belief that we're not, like, maybe what people will think of us, our parents, our peers, our community, or what we think we won't be giving our kids. Like, I'm not teaching them responsibility, or if I don't impose this consequence, how will they ever learn, and all this stuff. And we forget, like, we're humans, and it's through our connection that children instill like behaviors and lessons. It's not through our power. And that's where the message is, I think, mixed up. We think that our power is the way to go, and I will nip it in the bud, and all these kinds of things. And it's really about, tell me how this makes you feel, kid. Like, even the chores, like, is it too overwhelming? Because you're not doing it, and I know that I'm becoming a nag. Like, I will say that. Like, what's going on? Tell me. Is it too much? And she might say, I don't like to do it because you and dad always leave all your stuff all over the place, and why should I have to clean it up? And she gets out these feelings of, whether it be I'm unjustly treated, or, you leave the bigger mess, why should I clean it up? Like, whatever it might be. And I'm sort of like, just riffing here on things, but it's about that conversation. It's not about go do your chore. It's about, wow, you haven't done it in a week. Like, what's up? Tell me. Because I keep coming in and trying to remind you, and I'm like stressing you out. Or is there a different way that I can help you remember? Because I know when I talk, it like sets you off. Like, I have a kid that she doesn't, she's very sound sensitive too. So my tone of voice, like, I might be focused on one thing, and my tone of voice reminding her to do something is just like not connected, or it's cold, or it sounds maybe demanding where I don't mean it to be. And so there's just so many ways that we can just move in. I know I went on a lot of tangents there. I'm sorry.
No, I
felt so much though.
You said two things. Now, I mean, someone else can watch back. You might feel it yourself, but what I felt. No, I'm serious. Okay, this is very serious, everybody. Just be ready. I felt empathy and compassion in just this conversation, and a couple of questions that you asked. Like, just like, I see you haven't, walked the dog in the last week, and we agreed on this. Like, what's going on? That actually this actually makes me like really like I feel heard just now by you asking me. That's like it's going, Mom, like there's no clean. You didn't empty the dishwasher yet, or something. Like it feels so. Recognizing the humanness in our children. Like they're not just here to like for us to teach them and have them do the chores, and my goodness, we have to send good children off to college, and they have to know how to do their laundry, and they need to know how to make dinner and breakfast and clean up after themselves. It felt so like human. It just felt like you're a person. And just like sometimes I don't want to clean the dishes in the sink, I'll go to bed with them in the sink. Okay, everybody, don't tell anybody.
Don't look at my kitchen right now.
Don't look at my kids. So, but I don't have to. I'm like, I'm an adult. I can make my own choices. And I'm like, when I get up, I'll get up 10 minutes earlier because I have this part of my brain that will say, get up, it's going to take you 10 minutes. Get up 10 minutes earlier and you'll have it done before anybody even walks down these stairs, before the day starts. And I can do that. But sometimes with our kids, it's like, no, you got to do it now. It's your Thursday night. You're supposed to unload the dishwasher or whatever it is. And it's like, that just felt so, it felt like you were willing to hear your child. So whatever your child was going to say, that child was going to feel heard. And, part of what our whole situation is kids don't feel heard and seen, and when they don't feel heard and seen by us, their primary, especially at a younger age, their primary caregivers, and they don't feel worthy of our attention and our ear, like you said, if we're listening, or we're listening with our heart, or we're listening with an open heart, if they don't feel worthy of that, I want to just say this, they're going to go outside and look for that. And they're going to look for somebody else outside of us, outside of themselves, to go and validate them and hear them and approve of them. And you don't know, and I think, Dr. Gabor Mate talks about that. Then they start, and they do go to their peers as teenagers, but they're going to go not because of their friends, and that's developmentally appropriate. They're going to go looking for that. Oh, wow, that group over there, they hear me. I'm going to go fit in over there. And now we're walking, and I kind of have this, my sort of rules are with my kids for the most part, drugs, alcohol, sex, and when in a few more months, driving. Actually, my kid is already getting into cars now with teenage drivers. He just started. He has friends that are just, so I kind of, this is now where my dialogue goes. I mean, if I need to attend to like grades or schoolwork or something, I go that way. But those are kind of like the bigger ones that I kind of hold a little bit more to. But I feel like if we don't give that space for, I felt heard by you, by that question. If anybody, I'm rambling on, but I felt heard. And it was just so important for me to kind of just, make sure that if we don't do that for our kids, again, I know I'm putting a little pressure on you, I'm sorry, but if we don't, they go outside and they're going to go and look for that. I know I did. So maybe I'm projecting. I know I did that, because when you don't get it, you will go. And part of it is normal, right? Part of it is developmentally appropriate, right? They're teenagers. Like you said,
sure.
13,
to
14.
connect.
To
connect with their teens. But if they're not, like you said, feeling heard, they want to, wherever they're going to get validation is where they're going to get. And validation doesn't mean you praise them for doing wrong things. Validation means you must have been feeling pretty dysregulated to make that choice. Let's talk about how we can prevent that in the future, right? That's validation that says you made a mistake. Like, mistakes happen, and you know what? This might happen again because your friends might put that kind of pressure on you. Yeah. So let's just talk about a plan so that you feel more prepared in that situation. Like, that's the kind of conversation that makes an internalized behavior and choices, that
internalize
choice.
I love that.
Because otherwise, the punishment, I'm sorry, I just have to say this, because punishment drives me crazy. Please. And when we punish our kids, basically we're telling them one thing is that without this outer control, I don't trust that you can make this choice. And also that they're, I have to make you feel bad, but they become better at getting around the punishment. Like there's no, they don't stay connected to the behavioral change because the punishment and the fear is so bad feeling that they can't, that's what I was saying. They can't internalize that when it's connected to punishment. So it may be a short-term behavioral fix, but the long-term skills that we want them to have is to be able to make choices independently, good choices independently. That's what doesn't stick when we don't, go in with empathy and validation, along with whatever. Now, even consequences, like I'm not saying, if your child takes the car and doesn't come home, that we don't restrict the car, right? To me, that's not a punishment. It's not safe. Like this is a boundary for safety.
Right.
Or even like, I'm not going to let you go to this party or be with these friends because I want you to be home. I think we need to work on things at home. Like we can frame things that create boundaries without making them punitive and telling our kids, I'm doing this because you messed up, which is when they feel like, well, fine, then I'm not even going to bother if I'm always messing up. Like it becomes that kind of a cycle.
And they internalize that, then they can internalize, when you just said what you just said, like, well, why should I, if I'm always going to get it, they could start like a shame spiral. Like, well, if I always get in trouble, then I must not be good enough. And, and that's what's happening with our children. They're always making meaning of things, right? I mean, it's kind of what happens when they're young, because they're very egocentric and they're making meaning of everything that's happening around them. And I tried to talk to mommy and she was busy. And I was trying to say, guys, I can't right now. It's not that I don't want to pay attention to you. Just, can you give me 5 minutes? Let me complete what I'm doing. Right. Because it's not that you're not worthy of my attention. It's just that I'm in the middle of something. And I sort of think teenagers are kind of the same. Like their world revolves around them. And it's always, again, it's normal. It's how they develop. And so I kind of was thinking about that with teenagers, and how you said they're like toddlers a little bit. They're really expressive. They're really standing firm on what they believe, and which can be very assertive and maybe, and feel aggressive, but it's more assertive and more aware of who they are, which I think sometimes when I see that in my kids, sometimes that can make me like, darn it, I can't move it a little bit. I can't move them to my side a little bit. But at the same time, I'm so proud. I'm like, I'm so glad that you knew what you needed. That's amazing.
And that's what we want, right? Well, you want them to be able to know, to have this self-awareness.
Yeah.
So, I think a lot of the times when we take away their power, we leave them with so little. We leave them with their voice. Kids who yell a lot or have a really like a lot of back talk or things, they know you can't stop the voice the words that come out of their mouths. That's like one thing that we cannot stop, right? We can't stop them from speaking. We can punish them and, threaten them to fear, maybe stop for the moment, but it's like wherever they can find their voice, if they feel like they don't have one, they will. And it's really about shifting that perspective just a little bit.
So you and I also spoke, you sent me those beautiful, you have these communication cards for teens. Oh, amazing. And
Thank you.
And definitely let's make sure we tell everybody about them. But did you want to talk, because your reframes are phenomenal. So can we talk about like one of them? Do we want to talk about maybe respect, since that word, like we just spoke about that? So I just I printed out a copy of myself.
So people who know, if you know me, I have these parent cards that I created, and then I just created a new booster pack for teens, but they're just digital right now.
Okay.
And they are, teenagers, they need us so differently. They need us to say things so differently, and it's different topics, of course, right? I'm just going to pull up the respect one so that we're looking at the same.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think respect is so, I mean, the ones you sent me are fabulous. I mean, I was even going to go with self-esteem, but I was just thinking respect, because so many times with our teenagers, because you just said it too, we can't shut down their voice, right? I told my kid a couple of years ago, you have a voice. So I have to,
you have to honor that now. You can't take it away.
Look what I did. Little did I know what was going to happen 2 years later. No, I'm just kidding. But, you know, I think this is huge, because we can feel like, you know, our first comment could be like, don't disrespect me. Like, I feel like, and
who are you talking to?
Right. I even have my
that
finger up, in case you can't see it. I even have my finger up. So I thought that was really just phenomenal. So I'm going to pass it over to you on. So for anybody just popping in, we're just going to talk about respect and teens. So take it, go. I think
Just reframe it. Oh,
yeah,
so,
I love it.
I mean, this is one we hear a lot of the, you know, who do you think you're talking to like that? Don't be rude. That's not how you speak to people, because we want to put that limit in place.
I like
and
this one too. Show me some respect, please. I think I deserve it.
Oh yeah, that's because we can feel so self-righteous in our.
Yeah.
And you know what? We do deserve respect. This is not saying that we don't deserve it, but how do we get it, right? How do we get it through either connecting? So all of the cards are color-coded to help us look at communicating from different social emotional development perspectives. So am I going to try to strengthen my relationship? Am I trying to work on helping this child regulate stress? Or am I helping this child work on building some skill that they need? You know, maybe it's a organization skill, maybe it's some, you know, whatever it might be. So I think that the respect one came in an orange challenge. So it's helping a child regulate. So, you know, just telling a kid, I can tell this is really important to you. And I'm also having some strong feelings about what you're saying right now. Like, instead of saying, how dare you, just sharing that I feel strongly right now about what you're saying to me. Can we pause? Can we take a break? You know, the first thing we want to do is not engage when we're in that connection. Oh yeah, let's pause for a break so we don't say things that we don't mean.
Yeah.
Just letting them know, because I think I want to help people give their kids what I like to say is quality feedback. It's feedback that informs the child about how they can make a change. So saying, let's pause so that we don't say things we don't mean, is also saying, don't speak rudely, you know, but it's giving the child information they can use to not do that, right? I don't want you to speak rudely, but here's the information that you need to do that. Let's pause. Let's take a break. We're both feeling really overwhelmed. And I'm also concerned that it's going to be difficult for us to resolve anything if we're both feeling upset. I think that's generally what the card says.
Yeah.
Because these are like conversation starters. These are not exact scripts. It's not like say this and then our kids magically become, you know, obedient. That's not the goal. The goal is really, how can I connect with you? How can I start a conversation that opens up dialogue? And maybe the first thing that I hear from a kid is, no, I don't want to. That's also, you know, a cue for us. Now we might get triggered by that and we might then go, well, I'm going to shut this down. And that's for us to go, you know what? I don't feel like I can continue. I'm going to go get a drink of water and I'll come back. Like really being the bigger person to walk away when we see that our kids are not responsive, that they're not ready to open up. Because we can talk about that behavior later. We can come back and say, I don't like when we communicate like this. I want us to feel respectful towards each other. I know that you want to feel respect. What can we do? What can we work on? What do you think's getting in the way? That's the conversation that we can have later. But in that moment, we have to say, like, let's pause, let's take a break. And sharing what we might do. On this card, it also says, if I slow down with some deep breaths before I start talking, I think that I'll be able to, you know, it'll be easier for me to discuss this. So it's about showing our kids what we do as well.
I really like that one because I was, you know, reading somewhere too, you see these memes and stuff, when's the last time you told somebody to calm down, they actually calm down, right? Or all right, you know what? Let's take some deep breaths. It makes sense, like you just said it, but this reframe that you did versus, all right, it looks like we need to calm down. Let's count. Can you take some deep breaths? And if they say like, no, I don't want to, like, I don't want to do that. It's also still very, and this word is coming to me, it's still very kind of controlling, like telling them what to do. And what you're saying here also, if I slow down with some deep breaths to calm myself before talking about anything, it will be easier for me to discuss this. You're actually talking about yourself.
Right.
Role modeling. That's really huge, because still we think, oh, let's teach our kid to take deep breaths. Let's teach them to pause, right? We're still in that teaching kind of controlling it a little bit, like they're irritating me the way they're talking to me. Let me tell them to take some deep breaths.
Yeah, my kid would be like, Mom, I know how to take deep breaths. Leave me alone.
Right.
It's just so far
like,
past
don't tell me what to do. My kids would be, don't put that consciousness stuff on me, right? But to show that this is what I'm going to do right now. Before I continue with this conversation, I'm going to take some deep breaths. I'm just going to pause it, or I'm going to put my hands on my heart, or I'm going to take a sip of water, I'm just going to walk into the other room, and then I'll be right back with you. It's actually just, and I think that's the key. We're role modeling what we're doing. Look, I can get elevated too. I can become emotionally dysregulated too. I'm a freaking human. I just did 20 other things right before you walked in the door, or, I didn't sleep well last night.
I had a bad day. Yeah. Like
I had a
tough day. And
I one time said, oh, wow, I haven't eaten all day. And my kid will turn around. He's like, why? Then go eat something before you talk to me. I'm like, exactly right. So it could be, I have my stuff. I'm human. I have my stuff. So I really like the tools that you have that are really just, it was that one particularly role modeled. Wow, if I were to share that, I'm just saying this is what I'm doing. It's just what I'm doing.
Setting a boundary too, because you're saying, I'm not going to continue like this. This doesn't work for me. I'm going to go take care of myself so that when we come back together, we can try again.
And I think it's that boundary, which I am a person that had no boundaries. So I'm learning them, but I kind of heard that as I just almost set a boundary for myself. And because I know what I needed, and actually what ended up happening is I set a boundary for that conversation that was going to happen too. If my kid was talking to me loudly or snapping at me or something, which I might have been interpreting as disrespectful, by me setting a boundary that I didn't want to do that in return, and setting the boundary for what I needed, the boundary was set for like that conversation too.
Right.
So two things sounded like, and I'm going to use that one. I really like it because that feels so authentic. It feels like this is what I need. I actually do need to take a couple breaths, pause for a second, and then I can come back and actually maybe listen to him without like judging his behavior and how he's talking to me and all this kind of stuff. I really, really like I heard double boundary almost, like like the boundary for me was setting the boundary for everything.
Yeah. And when you set that, when that becomes your pattern, it makes it very hard for people to want to treat you poorly because you're empathetic, you're setting boundaries for yourself, and you're teaching your children how to set it for themselves so they don't feel the need to come at you in that same way. And again, when kids are struggling with things like anxiety or, when they're just overstressed, we have to look at that and say that this is not who this child is. This is a temporary state of being that they're in. And we don't have to name it for our teenagers. We don't have to say, you're anxious, because I can see that you're not ready to talk about this. Let's just come back. Let's take some time and we'll come back. And some kids do need support. Like we can offer tools sometimes, but maybe not in that moment of conflict, not in that moment.
Right.
Like, you go calm down by some breathing. It's like, I found this like new app that helps you calm down by showing you this thing. And we shared that kind of stuff. Or I bought myself some stress balls to keep in the car when I'm, have my road rage or whatever it might be, sharing in that way. But it's so important to model that same regulation and boundary setting without forcing it. Like, I'm setting this boundary because you need it. It's like, no, I'm setting this boundary because I need it. This is how I can be compassionate and protect myself, which is what we want them to do.
Exactly. And actually what we're doing for ourselves, and this is, I think, the key around boundaries, especially with our teens. And it's not exactly the same for little kids, right? Where there's some safety issues and, with younger children, but with this age children, what I am really feeling in this conversation is that I'm actually learning that when I set a boundary from what I need, it's very different. I can even hold the pushback that's going to come if there's come. I'm very secure because it's coming from something that I need for myself. And and without even knowing, it's not really an intention that I said, but my kid learns it too. They just do, because that's what they're seeing in their home, right? Yeah. And that's what they're seeing no matter what. They have all these friends and they might be social butterflies and all out or not. I have one that's all the way out there socializing and one that's less. No big deal. But they're seeing it from their adult, and really we are their main person that they're learning from, even as teenagers, they're watching us interact with other people and what we do and all that kind of stuff.
Totally.
I really like that because you just took it to another level. That's a boundary for me, and it's for my need. And maybe that's why I was so attracted to that one and wanted to talk about it. It felt so authentic. It felt like I'm creating safety for myself right now, and I'm going to hold space for myself. And tomorrow I'm talking about the inner child. So interestingly, It's almost like I'm just going to be with myself for 2 or 3 breaths here before I come in and deal and have this conversation with my real child, my child outside of my body. So that's kind of what I just took in. And that felt really, really good. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. I don't want to take up your entire afternoon because I probably could.
We could just talk all day, right?
Well,
no, I totally.
Let's talk about responsibility now. Let's talk about chores. But I don't want to take up your whole day.
Well, if anybody has any questions, we can totally talk about one more if we have a few minutes if you want to. If I have time. Yeah.
What you tell me. I have 2 more, but if you want to pick one in particular I like this one. I like responsibility, and I'll tell you which one I love. I'm tired of asking you the same thing over and over because I feel like I do that sometimes, many times.
Yes.
So I like this one.
To just get more frustration. We just frustrate ourselves when we say it over and over too. We're not getting anywhere.
And here's another one. Can I say, do you mind if I say these?
No,
for the audience
to
listen?
Absolutely.
Because, I think these are profound. I don't know. I'm resonating with them. Here's another one. This isn't my responsibility. You're too old to be acting like this. Oh.
How many of us heard that too?
Woo.
If we haven't said it, I mean, now granted, a lot of these are like things I've either said or wanted to say. And then I'm like, okay, fine. That wasn't what I meant. Here's what I really mean.
And this one, you have to learn to be more responsible. You're almost an adult. Sounds kind of reasonable.
It's so scary though when you say that to a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old. They're like, "Well, I'm not ready yet.
I'm not trying to do. I don't want to." But these don't really. These are things that just come out of our mouth. We may have heard it ourselves, like you just said too. Somebody might have said it to us. We might be hearing another parent say it, and you might be like, "Yeah, damn it, you are almost an adult. Yeah, you are too old." Sometimes we say it to like this. I like to my kids. Well, you're the older brother. Well, you're the older one, right?
Yeah,
oh, my kid. It was a few years ago. He came to me and he goes, "You always do that to me because I'm the oldest, or you always come to me first." This is, I think he was a teenager. He might have been like 13 or something like that. And I was like, "Damn, is he right? I might have to check myself on this. I might have to go and do a little journaling and some exploration here if I really do go to him first because he's older, you
Yeah,
know?
it's like that responsibility that he's saying, I can't handle this. I'm not
Yeah.
ready. I'm going to give this back to you. But it's just, again, it's not that we have to be perfect with our kids. It's that they
Yeah.
feel open enough to say, you know what, this isn't working for me, Mom. Why do you, and they might not say it in that non-judgmental way,
No.
but they may say, you always do this. And it's our
Yeah.
job to hear that and say, how am I
Hmm.
contributing to this? How might
Right.
I be contributing to this?
Tell me
Even
more.
if you think, even if you think you have no responsibility, to just step back and think, how might I be contributing to this situation, gives you so much power to shift the situation as
So
well.
much. It opened up a conversation with him and I don't remember now what exactly happened, but it just gave me an awareness that, and then I started, you know, and this is part of it too. I'm I'm the oldest, right, out of the two sisters. So maybe that was, my mom might be here. Sorry, Mom. But maybe that was done to me and I didn't, and I just, it was just done. And so, but I have a kid and maybe I said it too. Like, why do you always come to me? I'm the oldest, but nothing was, I don't know, just, I don't really know. But when he said it, it just kind of, because I didn't take it personally. I didn't want to like, don't, you know, I didn't look at it as disrespectful. I think he said it kind of loud, but I did say, well, am I? And why? And what is this really representing for me? So it opened up a conversation after I took a little time to like kind of just go into myself and listen to what he said. It opened up a conversation like, can you tell me a little bit more? Like, when do you see this happening? And what's going on for you when I ask you? Is it too much for you? Like, are you like not? So it, and I think that's a hard part of sibling stuff. I was on a call last week about siblings, and that's a hard part of siblings. And comparison, I don't know if you've read Brene Brown's new book, Atlas of the Heart, but there's a chapter on comparison. Oh God, Lori, that's a chapter I had to read very slowly because my eyes were blurry because the tears were coming. So it was
I'll
like
put that one on it's on my list.
Put that on your list.
Yeah.
Put that on your list. But I just want to, so I really liked this responsibility. So I don't know what color the card is. I think I printed it black and white.
It's green.
So,
it's green because in this one we're building, we're trying to build skills, right, with our kids. And in this one it was responsibility. So if I'm asking you the same thing over and over again, it means that there's some kind of an agreement that we made that the child is not fulfilling. And here's the other thing I just want to say for parents. I'm not saying that we should not be angry, that we should not feel those feelings, that we should say, oh, our kids are learning, so we shouldn't have any emotions about it. That's not what I'm saying at all. Feel your feelings, get them out, talk to that friend that listens to you, complain about things when you need to, but work through your own nervous system regulation so that we can be there to help our kids, so that we don't say, I'm tired of asking you. You should just be more responsible. When we're regulated, we can say, you know what, kiddo, this isn't working for me. Like, just like name it without any judgment. This isn't working for me. Doesn't say it's your problem, but it says that we have something that we have to work out. Like this, that we can't go on like this because it's not working for me. And this is the one where it's like, okay, that reminding can really stress kids out. So noticing, like, I noticed that when I remind you, it seems to make you more agitated, and I'm wondering if there's a way that I could help you remember without making you feel more stressed. Now, we might not be saying that all right in a row, but these are just some of the, again, conversation starters that we can bring up to our child. And that I know that honoring their good intentions, I think, is so important. I know you want to keep your agreements. I know that you don't mean to, not do whatever XYZ chore this is. How can I support you? Like, what do you think that you need? Or what's getting in the way? Just prompting kids to think about the solutions instead of saying, here's the solution, you should just do it. I've told you once, I've told you 3 times. And then we get frustrated because they're not doing it. We have to really be willing to just get down and say, like, what's getting in your way? What do you think is not working for you? And then it might be like that they just feel like there's so much. They may be holding on to, like you said, like something about their sibling, Like maybe it feels like you're always asking them to do this chore and not their other sibling, and they just didn't feel like they could say that to you. And once they voice that, then they're more willing. And you say, "Oh wow, I didn't know you felt that way." I'm definitely willing to, look at how you guys split up your responsibilities. Like, not saying you're changing anything, but that you're acknowledging that happened, and then finally maybe that you don't have to keep reminding them because you've come to the root of the problem. You've addressed the source. And then you can move through. But we can't address the source if we're always focusing on just telling them to stop or do something or be more responsible, be more resilient, be less sensitive, whatever it might be, or even just be more confident. Like, I know one of the other ones is like self-esteem. They struggle with their self-esteem or friendships, and we want to just say, don't worry about it, or gotta be confident in yourself. And we want to give this really well-meaning advice, and instead they just need us to say, you know what, you're trying to find yourself, and it's normal to wonder how people are going to react, instead of saying like, don't worry about that. You just be yourself, because then a kid's like, oh, I'm gonna try to be myself. How do I find the confidence? Instead of normalizing that, you're worried about what people are think. That's normal.
God,
what do you think?
Lori,
and then
so good. I'm feeling heard and seen right now. Thank you so much. My inner child is thanking you right now.
I know. I think my inner child's feeling really heard right now. We're just like giving our inner child lots of love.
I love it.
It is. It's like every time I say things like this and I'm able to say it to my kid like that. It's like, I just feel like we're just creating people who can go out and have relationships with others, good, healthy, intimate relationships. And that is what will really make, a change in our world, I think.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I want to say more, but that's like such a perfect place to end, because you're right. That's how we change, just by being a more aware, present parent with our own child, because they're going to go out and have those relationships with others, and they build those. I say we are helping them build those same skills, and they will, because it'll become who they are. They'll offer that to someone else. They'll offer that empathy. They'll offer that ear. They'll offer that validation, and that's just so beautiful. I wanted to, I know I said I wasn't going to say much more, but I really wanted to just stress what you said about our nervous system, the parents' nervous system. And you said, like, it doesn't mean we can't get angry. It doesn't mean we don't get angry. And you're right. No one's saying that. And I guess, my examples come from a lot of work to try to realize that when my kids are saying something, because they do have the space to say, that I, for the most part, can be really careful and say like, oh, wow, that means there's something I need to look at about myself right now, because I am co-creating with them. I am part of this dynamic with them. So what is my role? Once I do that, then I can go in, like you said, and have these beautiful, this dialogue with them. It sounds like you're feeling unsure about what you're wearing, instead of going, damn it, hurry up and put on those jeans and that, just pick any shirt that you want.
You look like fine.
You look
doesn't
fine.
matter.
It doesn't matter. Just hurry up. We got to go. But I'm dysregulated, so I can't go there. So that is like, even when my kid said about like, having to do too much, or I always go to him, because I was able to just take a moment and go, wow, this means something. He's actually expressing something that I need a few minutes, or whatever I took was, maybe it was a little while ago. So maybe I took a few days to process it before I could go in and be like, I really I heard you the other day. I'd like to know more about that. It just, and that's opened up the dialogue for communicating. No judging, no shaming, no saying, well, you're this, you're that. And, it was like, I want to know what you're thinking and feeling. And it's not about meeting that. The need was to communicate. The need was to be heard. So I am meeting it by taking it in, going and processing it on my own, which is, I remember doing, and then coming in, and I could have a conscious, clean, open, non-judgmental, maybe, I even want to use the word like, no agenda, like no, I wasn't trying to accomplish anything. My intention was simply just to hear and listen. And I guess validate. I mean, it's not validate like you can do whatever you want, but validate his words, validate his experience.
His experience, exactly. Because
experience.
sometimes we'll deny that. We'll be like, I don't treat you that way, or I'm not doing that, or you're being ridiculous, or you're being, you know, whatever. And we just, because it hurts.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, I don't want to be that person who did that. That hurts me. And we might, just like them, when we say, you know, you lied about that, or we tell them who they are, and it's something, and they're like, I'm not that person. I don't know who. And no wonder they, you know, say, I didn't do it. I didn't lie. Because they're like, I'm not, how could you say that about me? That's not who I am. And we're this, you know, it's just, again, human behavior. It's the same thing. So we're really teaching them, I think, to honor those feelings the same way that we want to learn to honor our feelings.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. This was amazing.
Oh, I'm so glad. It was so fun.
So fun. I can't help but have fun, because I can't help but like crack some jokes and have a little fun, and so educational, and so real. And I love your examples, everybody. I just, when I opened up that, you know, the PDF that you sent me, it was like, oh my God, that's me, you know. And so it's really, and actually what I wanted to share, like, you know, when I said like the responsibility, like, this isn't my responsibility, you're too old to be acting like this was really key. That my kid could be like taking in shame. Like, that was huge for me.
Right, the perspective shift. So each card has, so like, even if you don't look at the language, you can look at like, be curious, validate needs. Because at the top it says avoid shame, avoid blame, kind of putting our attention on what they're hearing, not what we're intending to say, but what the message is that's actually come across is very different.
It's so important, because I think you had this, and that's where I got it from, that Dr. Gabor Mate says, you know, we can love our children, but they may not be experiencing our love. And, you know, to paraphrase him, and that's beautiful, because like, you say that type of sentence comes out of your mouth, and it could be very possibly absorbed as like, I'm not a good person. And it's very shaming to the child. And like, we're not really intending that. I mean, for the most part, most of the parents that are here that are watching that are going to watch it, you know, in the next few days or whatever weeks and come back later. We're not intending to do that. But that's the hard part, that they are receiving that. They could be taking that in, right? So
unintentionally and unaware.
Unintentionally,
like we're not.
We're not doing that. But like, just like he says, like, we're, you know, giving love, but they may not be experiencing it that way. And I think that was really heart opening for me. And so your cards are beautiful.
Thank
your
you so
Instagram
much.
page. I was so attracted with the way you lay it out. And I mean, there was times where I said avoid criticism, and then you gave another example. And I think most of us can, I don't even know like it's criticism, but I can relate to the sentence that you wrote, you know, the example that you gave. So that was really very eye-opening, and it really does guide me to also shift, you know, my mindset and my view on them, and gives me new language. So I just want to say thank you.
Everybody, you're so welcome. I'm so glad that you found them helpful, and really with everybody in our lives too. You'll start to notice like how we speak to all the people, and even how people speak to us, and suddenly we just can't unsee it, and we want to communicate.
I love that. Once you see, you can't unsee. That is like my biggest thing. I'm like, I can't unsee this now.
Nope.
Now I know.
Now you'll be like, oh, that's blame, that's shame. Oh, look at that guilt over there.
Yeah, exactly. That's so funny. You know, and I think you just also, one of the things that, you know, I began my journey because of my children. So that's my why. It's always my why. It's why conscious parenting really drew me in. And, you know, I wanted to be a different type of parent. I wanted to connect. I wanted the teenage years to be about connection. That doesn't mean easy. It just means open and connected and safe. I wanted to create safety for my children I had to learn how to create safety for myself. But the one thing I wanted to say was what you just mentioned. This becomes how you live. You know, just this type of language. It might be as a parent, as our role as mom, dad, grandparent. My mom's on here, so she's the role of grandparent now too. And I just think we live like this. Then it becomes the way we speak. It becomes our awareness rises in how we think about things. And I just go to respect. Like, I don't really ever feel disrespected anymore. Like, I kind of work on that wound. And so now when somebody's talking to me, I'm usually like, there's a need. I need to pause here. I need to just express myself. Like, this isn't working. Let's take a pause for a second and we'll come right back, especially if I'm talking to another adult, you know, chronological, really over adult, like we're not a 20-year-old adult, but like a 40-year-old adult. And it's beautiful. So this language really is so helpful and profound to have conscious communication with our teens, and just to have conscious communication with our own self. So we don't shame and guilt our own self all the time and judge ourselves. That's our, you know, I'm an expert self-judger. That I will claim to be an expert on.
The judge is very present, right? It's like alive and well in my head sometimes.
So getting better, you know, once I see it now. But I think it's just beautiful that we can have conscious communication. It's a part of it, becomes a part of us.
Yes, I'm so glad more people are becoming just aware of how they speak in general and just wanting to connect in different ways. And empathy has become like the global awareness of that word has just like exploded in the last like 15 years, which I think is very cool. Yeah.
And that's another one. That's a great Brene Brown word, empathy.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big one, you know. So I'm in love with her right now. I just finished the book last week, so
she's amazing. Yeah, it's hard not.
I'm on
to
a
be,
high,
right?
I'm on a high with some of her emotions that she talked about, and some of the chapters that really like were gut wrenching for me.
Yes, so much good stuff. I don't know her new book. I'm gonna have to definitely check it out though.
So, Lori from Teach Through Love. Thank you.
Shalini, thank you so much for inviting me. It was so great to talk to you. I hope we can do it again. We should definitely do this. We'll pick a new topic.
We'll pick a new topic. I'm in right now. So I'm in. We'll find a date in the near future, and I'm in. And I just again, thank you for saying yes.
And thank you for everyone who was watching too, for all you guys that are hanging on and here with us. It was so great I see the names like passing by. I don't really know how to work Instagram yet. I even set up my lights and I'm dark. I don't know what happened.
No, you look beautiful. You're not dark. Here,
I'm not. It looks dark on
not
my
at all.
screen.
Did either of you, here, Tati, did either of you go through a phase where your 14-year-old just rolled his eyes and gave snappy answers to everything and anything you said? What would you recommend?
So in the reframe part, yes. Actually, our tough year was 15. I thought that one of us wasn't going to make it. That's how intense that was. It was so different than any other year. But I had to remember, if I do the reframe, that a kid, well, one, they're just like, everything we say is stupid. And when we breathe too loud, it's stupid. And that is just, some of it is natural. But responding to it is about not like giving it power, not giving it energy. Like if we respond to that snappy roll your eyes with in front of them, it feeds that interaction to be like, it's not saying that that it makes that happen again, but it really, how much they do it. No, here's what I'm gonna say. I'm sorry. All around. It's about how we like spinning in my mind because there's so many ways I could talk about that. It's about how we respond to that. Yeah. It's really about, so like when you see that, like walking away and taking care of yourself, like if you can handle the snappy in the moment because you know that you're like feeling good, you're rested, you're fed, you're feeling good and capable in that moment, you can stay with it. And, you know, just like some of the cards say, you know, I can't see, now we got me at the end and all my words are, they've all fallen.
It's okay.
Out.
You know what I would say to that? I would say like, and I find it's so hard and so beautiful with our children, right? But I would say one of my things that I do with my children when they're like that is, if I can remember, is, ooh, don't take it personally.
Right.
Don't take it personally. I do that. And then I think after I do that, first that has to come to my mind, because if I take it personally, then I'm going to be like, how dare you? Who do you think you are? Stop rolling your eyes. I'm going to take those eyeballs out if you roll them anymore. So I kind of go like, yeah, okay, I have been pretty good at not responding and taking it personally. So I think I go there. Then the second place I definitely will go is, and for Tati, for you, is I go, because if I'm feeling something, I will go and pay attention to my feelings. If I'm feeling something come through me, like, wow, I must be I'm such a bad mom, like I can't do anything right for this kid, and I try so hard all day, whatever my thoughts might be, I try so hard, I do everything for him. How much more does this kid want from me? Any of these kind of you can maybe even feel my energy and see my energy is shifting a little bit. I know that I need to go and take care of myself. I need to see what's coming up for me. And it's really interesting that this is what I would say is my little girl inside of me is being activated, and there's some feelings coming up, and I need to go check in with her. I need to go tell her this is my favorite now. It's so understandable that you're feeling this way when your kid is rolling his eyes at you. It's so understandable that you're feeling like you're not such a good mom right now, or that he's judging you or something like that, whatever it might be. And I would tend to her, and then I can go to my child and see what was that snappiness. And 14, if they're hormonal, the social emotional growth is like so crazy and intense. Not to say that we just came off of 2 years of a pandemic. That would be current 14-year-old, right? Today's 14-year-old. There's so many reasons that could be affecting this snappiness and the hormones are, I feel like at 13, 14, like sometimes with one of my kids, like, they're in puberty, but you can't see the puberty. Like, you can't see the facial hair yet, and you can't see things. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Tati has a son. I don't know. But I think you can't see that, so you kind of forget about that. I know with one kid I did. Like, when he's 6th, 7th grade, you're like, I know they are, but are they really? And
I'm so sorry. They
No.
misread our facial expressions at that age. Like the teenage, they don't necessarily have like their reactions to how we, respond to them. That's what I was trying to say early. Matters so much, because they don't like, just the shift in tone or the slight. They misread a lot. So we may even be empathetic, and they're still. So what you were saying about taking care of that inner child is so important, because sometimes there's not anything you can do to change their energy. It's about putting up that boundary for yourself, right? So I loved what you said about doing that, walking away.
That's
talking
my
to your inner child, though. That's
my go-to, because that's me. This is my stuff. Like I would say, like, if I was rolling my eyes at somebody, like, I have something going on. Like, maybe I just feel like, oh, here I go. Here he goes again. Like, it's annoying to me. Like, I'm feeling annoyed. That's why I'm rolling my eyes. And who cares if the other person is on and saying that's his or her stuff. These are my eyeballs. If I'm rolling them, it's like, I got to look at that. So I'm talking about the kid, but I just put myself and say, if something's going on with me, I tend to go first to my inner child. And because I'm on this, conscious path, like, I just do. That's my go-to. And I think it always is, even if I'm on this path for 30, when I'm 80 years old, and I'm like, I'm on this conscious path journey for the last 50 years of my life, I would like to still think I might have to go to the inner child before I can, if I'm feeling something, before I can communicate from a grown-up adult.
Oh no, you're frozen.
Decline a call.
Oh, there you are.
But yeah.
Oh, I was like,
so there. I was getting a call. So I hope that helps. It is really hard. I think she said it's really hard. And yes, really, but hard. Damn is hard. It is. And this is what it is. It's a trial and error, and a back and forth, and a repair and ownership. And Yeah. I mean, I got to go to my inner child. That's where I go. So,
Yeah.
inner child, thanks for bringing up inner child. I know it's my work to do, and I guess I'm pressuring myself to change that dynamic. I'll get there. Of course, you'll get there. Of course, you'll get there. We're all just walking this path of trying to get
Yep.
there.
Doing our best. Conscious, not perfect. I could say that a
Conscious,
million
not
times.
perfect.
Yeah, just be
Yes.
conscious. And the fact that we are, like, if any of you that are out there and actually stopping and considering what's happening in the moment, just that is such an amazing step towards breaking cycles that many of us grew up with. Because
Yeah.
just the fact that you might not know what to say or do in that moment, but just being present to the fact that something isn't working is such an amazing
Totally.
step. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Like that's like breaking the cycle. That's like the beginning. That's like, well, you just broke something by just
Yep.
not engaging. You're like, you just cut something.
Yep.
So I think that's a beautiful reminder too. So, and if you're here watching it, you're like, just wondering, just like, let me get curious, let me just see, what is this conscious communication and conscious parenting and conscious journey all about? It's awareness. So, again, I am so grateful to this conversation. I learned so much from you, and I thank you again. So,
yes, thank you for having me. You better go get your phone call. We went so long, didn't we?
I know. I
don't
said,
think we.
see, I just,
We
I knew,
could.
I'm so glad I'm so glad that we had free time to talk. I'm so glad that we were able to make this a priority. Thank you again. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. And everybody who was here, I'm so grateful to you. Thank you so much. Reach out to Lori Petro at Teach Through Love. She's right there on Instagram, right where you guys are right now. And Shifting with Shalini, you're already here. So yeah, more to come on. There's always more to come on conscious communication. Thank you.
Thank you.
Be well. Bye, everybody.
Do you stop it or do I stop it?
I'll stop it. I got you, girl.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.